Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the HoloNet Hot Takes. I'm your co-host Tom Larson here with.
Ben Corey.
How are you doing today, Ben?
I'm good. We are virtual today.
We are virtual today. How's it going over there?
It's going pretty good. Going pretty good out in Los Angeles, California. Another 80 degrees and sunny as always. Can't complain.
Can't complain about that. That's nice. Good weather.
Great weather. But we're here today to talk about what, Thomas?
Oh, well, we're here today to talk about Comic-Con and our experience there. Um, Started off, if you guys have checked out my new shirt today, it is the San Diego Comic-Con exclusive for I believe it was Friday it launched at the Roosevelt's booth at the Lucasfilm Star Wars booth. It is a nice button-up t-shirt. Um, I believe it's titled Collectibles or like Get It Now. It's in lieu with the Kenner action figures and all of those collectibles that have been uh, re-releasing. You can kind of see a few here and over there. I've been started collecting them back a few years ago when they started re-releasing them in like a celebration of the original Kenner figures. Kenner, of course, was the original um, partnership with Lucasfilm in creating the toys for the original trilogy back when Lucas secured those rights, which is a funny story. Have you heard about that?
No.
So back when Lucas, and this is another experience, I actually got to see the chance to see George Lucas at Cannes this past summer, give a talk. He did a rendezvous, which was just like a table talk with another person interviewing him because he was receiving the Palme d'Or. I'll post some content about that. I'll share that with you guys. It was pretty cool. A great honor to be able to attend that. But he talked about the whole, oh, merchandising and how I got those rights. And because it's kind of lore that, he made the greatest money move ever, getting the
Yeah.
merchandising rights
Mm-hmm.
for Star Wars. And as he explained it, was, yeah, no, I didn't get the merchandising rights because I was thinking about selling toys. I needed to advertise.
Yep.
And it was the only way that he could work around the studio to advertise for his film because they weren't going to do it. They didn't even think Star Wars was going to become the big thing that it did. They thought it was going to flop. It was going to be one and done. Lucas's career would be over. And so what he did was he got the merchandising rights, licensing rights, and then went to Comic-Con, went to different conventions to start selling T-shirts 2 years before the film came out. And that's
Mm-hmm.
how he advertised. So
Yep.
day of launch comes and there's a huge crowd. And why was that? Because everyone has heard about this Star Wars thing for the past 2 years.
He knew his audience. He knew where
And
to
then
find them.
yeah, and it really just helped that Kenner, the small toy brand, was like, "Hey, we'll take you on," and then it just became so popular.
That's awesome. It's-
So it's pretty awesome. We're honoring that heritage and stuff with these kind of this exclusive shirt and then these action
yeah.
figures and stuff. It's pretty cool.
It is pretty cool that they've kind of brought it back for some of the new ones. As you can see in your view here, you got the new Boba Fett one.
Yeah,
What
so I
else?
got
Mandalorian.
these two are from the Mandalorian show. So this is
Yeah.
the Mandalorian version of the Boba Fett, which is pretty cool. And then we got the Mandalorian right here.
Hmm.
And then this is a double pack of the original Boba Fett and Bosk.
Nice. Very
So,
cool.
and then over here are more classic characters and stuff. And yeah, it's really cool. So like each of these boxes houses like five of those action figure packs. Some of them I've only found at Disneyland. I haven't
Yeah.
really gotten them at other toy stores just because I know someone that works there and able to get me discounts and stuff. So it's been fun collecting these things.
Can we just go back to the fact, is it really called Roosevelt's? Is that the
RSVL,
pronunciation?
yeah,
Yeah.
RSVLTS, Roosevelt's.
Oh,
That's
I had no idea.
because when I got it, that's what the people that I showed it to first. We saw some friends down at Comic-Con. I was like, "Oh, hey, check out my, new shirt." And they were like, "Oh, did you get it from Roosevelt's?"
And wow, that's cool.
Yeah,
I had no clue. That's how you say it.
I think I basing it on that, apparently it's a San Diego brand. So, um, yeah, Roosevelt's. Shout out to you guys.
Cool.
It's a very comfy shirt. They had like four other exclusive ones. I tried getting the episode one 25th anniversary shirt, but that released on Thursday and was already sold out by the time we got there.
Wow. Yeah. It's named after Teddy Roosevelt.
Yeah, their logo
Wow.
is like his glasses and mustache.
That's pretty wild. That's pretty wild. And here they are doing Star Wars stuff.
Yeah, it's pretty. It's like who would have thought? They had a couple booths at Comic Con. They had
Yeah,
a
they did.
the
They've
Star
made
Wars
they
one, and then
Yeah, they do all sorts of stuff. Which is really cool. I mean, can't go wrong with like a nice fun shirt, can you?
no, you can't. And like great material. I know you guys can't feel it through the screen, but I will attest to it. It is fantastic material, um, and really comfy and fun and vibrant. You know.
All right. Thomas, I want you to describe the Funko Pop line for me.
Oh gosh. Um. So I don't know if any of you guys have been to Comic Con. I'm sure a couple listeners have, but the imagine you're in like a lazy river
It's a good analogy.
and the lazy river continues to go and there's a little offshoot that opens up at once in a blue moon, literally once in a blue moon. And
Hmm.
if you're at that offshoot, you get a Funko Pop. But if not, you continue to go around the lazy river until being ridiculed by some workers
Yeah.
that you're in the lazy river.
Yeah.
And yeah, until you either get bored or dragged into the coveted line.
Yeah, it was kind of a cool game. It was kind of like gambling because like you never knew when they would like stop the line to let some people in. So you kind of every time you went around, you're like, there's hope that they could pick me. There's hope that they could pick me. But you knew they weren't gonna pick you. But
And you look
Thomas,
them dead in the eye and you'd say,
um,
man, let me in. They
this
won't.
system makes no sense because there's no organization and people are getting in and out of the line with whatever they want to do. And the workers are yelling at you, round and round you go. No one it stops. Nobody knows. And it's kind of weird and kind of awful. And their logic of like being a fire hazard is kind of crazy considering that it was just congesting like the surrounding booths with people walking around in a circle. But yeah, Thomas. Did it all work out in the end? Did you get your Funko Pop in Comic-Con?
I will say I did not get my Funko Pops in Comic Con, the exclusive Funko Pops. Well, by the time I was in line, Darth Vader was sold out. Thrawn was going to sell out soon. There was no hope in the lazy river. And of course, there's always hope. And the other day I saw online that Funko has released their exclusive San Diego Comic-Con Pops on their website online. Some stores in North America have a few of them, but the Darth Vader and Thrawn I was able to get online.
Wow. Gotta
So
suck for those people who waited in line and tried to
I
get lucky.
I feel terrible for anyone who waited in the Lazy River longer than 30 minutes to get those specific Funko Pops because it
What
took
a
me five
waste.
minutes online.
Hmm. And so from Comic-Con, we didn't really have much Star Wars announcement or news or anything of that sort. I know we did have, it seemed like the gist of Comic-Con was the Marvel announcements on Saturday night. Like that was the kind of big deal. Um, What are you expecting from Star Wars now? Because they didn't even announce the release date of Skeleton Crew until a week after Comic-Con. Don't you think that that's something that they could have announced at Comic-Con or while Comic-Con was at least happening?
Yeah, I feel like that's one of those things you do announce while Comic-Con's happening. That's the whole point, right? And
Hmm.
their booth was nice, and I will say it was
It was a
fun. And
great
they had
booth.
the Acolyte stuff. They had 25 years of Lego Star Wars display. Um, but yeah, it just seemed kind of disappointing in that we get the news of Skeleton Crew a week later. Like you could have made that announcement
Yeah.
at Comic-Con. You definitely knew the release date a week
You could,
ago.
well, how about this? You know how they always like they had those magazines that were printed from Variety and they're handing out those magazines of like you should subscribe to this magazine and free magazines and stuff like that. And People magazine was were the people who announced it. People magazine were the people who announced it. People, the magazine was the magazine that announced this exclusive first look with a cover. You don't think they could have printed it and, done something that, you know, could have given out to Star Wars fans there? Just get the print date a week earlier and give it to all the Star Wars fans who are there and be like, "Oh, here's this exclusive Comic-Con magazine for you to read, exclusive print edition of our announcement." That's something. Thomas, I can't hear you. I don't know if that's me or you.
No, that's me. I was muted. I
There you go.
was trying to turn off this air
That's
conditioning over
okay.
here. Um, can you hear it at all?
No.
Okay, that's just me then. Um, yeah, it's like there was just nothing really exclusive about it. And seeing the Acolyte stuff in person was cool. I mean, they had all that on display, but yeah, and so it doesn't give me too much hope for the future. I know the other day someone commented on our TikTok about the Rogue Squadron because I made a joke about
Yeah,
it being canceled and then I was finally getting a release date. Uh, Actually, one of my favorite TikToks I've made. But he commented that back in March, oh my gosh, I'm forgetting her name.
that's okay.
What's her name?
Oh,
Rogue Squadron.
Rogue Squadron.
Why am I forgetting her name?
Patty
Patty
Jenkins.
Jenkins. Patty Jenkins. So back in March, Patty Jenkins apparently re-signed another contract with Lucasfilm. So Rogue Squadron's back on the table, but I will reiterate what I said a few episodes ago
Don't get your hopes
of
up.
unless I see a finished product, a teaser trailer, or just like I'm waiting until I see it on Disney Plus, all right? Or in the theaters. Do not tell me there's still hope. There's this and that. No. Unless I see it in person,
Yeah.
it's not going to be there. And so, like, this would have been a great time to say, hey, Rogue Squadron's back on the table. They could have made it even more official announcement,
Well,
instead of just,
true. True. I think there's a bit of it where it's like maybe this is like D23 news or, Star Wars Celebration news and Comic-Con has never like really been their full bag, right? Like in all honesty, like they like Star Wars Celebration. Like they've never like historically speaking, we can't expect much from them at Comic-Con
mhm.
besides what they did. Like they had a great booth. They had a lot of fun. They were like one of the few booths that had like good exclusives, in my opinion. Like, or were actually trying with exclusives. Like Marvel had like nothing. Like DC had like a couple of things, but it seems like they're at the beginning of the James Gunn universe, so they're still trying to figure it out. Like, I don't know. I can't get my hopes up too much, but in terms of like maybe making the People magazine and giving it to people, that would have been fun.
Yeah.
That's easy. That's an easy fix, you know. That's just a little something.
And I guess that's where it lies, is in the D23. And I think you mentioned that a couple weeks ago of
Mhm.
D23 and Star Wars Celebration really being the front runners for anything Star Wars news, which makes sense.
Yeah.
And kind of, yeah, it is expected. But I was just, yeah, I'm hoping, I don't know. We got Skeleton Crew coming up, which I'm really excited about. I don't know if you guys have tell could tell by how many TikToks we've made of it, but really excited for Skeleton Crew. I Yeah, it's gotten my hopes back up after Acolyte.
What makes me nervous though is how quiet they're being about it. And I don't know if this is just the Lucasfilm marketing strategy, but what are we? 4 months away from it being released, right? December 3rd. It's August, September, whatever. Anyway,
Yeah.
the we're for, in terms of like a Marvel movie, this trailer would be out 2 years ago.
Yeah, and there is no trailer. I didn't even think of that. There is no trailer.
Yeah,
There's
we have
only
no tra
stills.
Yeah, there's only stills. You'd think that the time that they're gonna release the trailer now is D23, which is, you know, later in August, right? It's
Yeah.
like you're cutting it kind of close in terms of like getting the word out there, which makes me nervous about how much faith there is in it. And maybe that's just because they're scared of what happened with the Acolyte, but maybe it's not. I don't
And
know.
I think it's probably because they have reservations after the Acolyte. Because that backlash and just receiving that from, the community, it's hard to keep pushing stuff out there, I feel like. Or I'd at least be hesitant about it.
Yeah.
But I also feel like kind of segueing into what I really want to talk about, Andor.
And or
I don't remember a lot of press about that. And like
that's true.
I don't remember a trailer about that. And I think that's why it took me so long to watch it was I had zero hype buildup going
Yeah.
into it. And I feel
Yeah.
kind of the same way about Skeleton Crew. Now, I feel more hyped for it now just because I've been really paying attention to the trends of Star Wars and that Lego
Yeah.
leaks and that, with this podcast really kind of being in the loop more. And I guess when Andor was coming out, I wasn't really in the loop. I was kind of fatigued at that point with, was that after Book of Boba Fett or before? It was just there was so much, and it
Yeah.
was not everything was the best, not everything was the worst, but there was just so much coming at me that I never. And the issue I remember having with it, and I hope Skeleton Crew doesn't do this. I
Hmm.
thought Acolyte did it okay. Was 3 episode release.
Yeah.
I myself, like, I personally love the week by week release
Hmm.
of television,
Yeah.
and I think when you're because it's the whole streaming service being, oh, do we want to be completely bingeable in the first day? Or do we want to
Yeah.
be like traditional television?
Yeah.
And so it's like a series like Fallout. Fallout was released all 8 episodes in one day.
Hmm.
Yeah, I binged it all in like one sitting because I had nothing to do. But something
Yeah.
like Andor, I think I was at a time in my life where I was like doing, way more
Yeah.
in school, this and that. Like I didn't have that free time. So launching 3 episodes at me, I kind of freaked out. I was like, I don't want to watch it because I have to watch 3 episodes this week in order to watch the one next week.
Yeah.
And that just put too much stress on me, too much like
Yeah,
commitment
I
in
feel
one
like
day.
you have to schedule it. Like you have to like in my head, like with all of these week by week things, like you have to schedule it, Like it's not like going onto TV and you just hit like DVR and see what you've recorded and you're like, oh, that new show that I like to watch was on 2 days ago, 2 nights ago. I should like watch that because I recorded it. It's like, no, you gotta like remember and go to the website or go to the app and like scroll through the page and try to find it because sometimes it's not on like the God image and like there's all these things to find it. So you got to keep it in your head. You're like, okay, Tuesday night is Acolyte night. It gives you trouble. But, you know, I mean, for the logic of it, for um on the business side, it's all about churn, right? So it's about making sure that you have people who are continuing to subscribe to your service and not just subscribing for a month, watching all that it has to have, and then unsubscribing. It's, making sure that you have the two people. So economically is the economics again, the money talks and the creativity walks.
Always goes back to the money.
Yep. But
Yeah, so I think because Acolyte did a 2 episode premiere, right?
yes, it was 2 episodes.
And I think that's enough. That's good. I can do 2 episodes because that's 2 hours of TV. That's fine.
Well,
It's when you get to the 3 hour long. Oh, it's not even two
in
hours
this
too.
situation, it's not, it's like maybe an hour 15, hour 45. It's like it's not. But I like a 2 episode special to warm you up because normally in terms of like television format, right, is like you allow the audience if they're gonna stick with it. And in Star Wars, right, most people are already buying into it. Like they're like, I gotta at least finish this. You see it with the Acolyte numbers that like it massively slopes off. But like for most part, people are gonna tune in for whatever, like give it the full chance. They're not gonna turn in for 10 minutes and then turn it off. They're gonna be like, all right, it's Star Wars. I got to give it, I got to watch what exists on it already. And for a 2 hour special, you can get really into it. You can get the exposition, you can get to know the characters, you can get like all of the things to build the world of like what the
Mhm.
story is, and then also get into the action and start moving it pretty well. it gives you a lot of space, which is what like great pilots and great like in this situation, it's just like a really long pilot, right? Of like it sets everything up and then it also gives you the action and story of it, So it's a really great like little scapegoat for, writers and creators, right? So in that sense, I think it's nice, but I feel like a lot of times they don't make that decision till later or something because it doesn't feel 100% planned out that way
And
sometimes.
and I think that would be my thing is like I think of it kind of like the director's cut of a film
Yeah,
where you're saying TV pilot, it gives it that space as a TV pilot. Well, a TV pilot is one episode.
yeah,
And for years, people have been able to do that in one episode. And so
yeah,
giving yourself that crutch of two episodes, yeah, it may bode better, but it's like, are you just using it because it's a crutch or can you not tell a good story? And that's the thing with Andor. I was hooked on the first episode. I didn't need to binge three episodes in a row to be hooked.
yeah.
Right. And that's what you're saying with the it's kind of like an
Hmm.
afterthought. It's like, oh shoot, maybe we should just release three episodes at once when in reality you don't need to.
Yeah.
And because yeah, Andor, I was hooked after the first episode.
So now that you've finally finished Andor,
I know that's my
let's talk about it.
that's my big confession. It took me too many years to watch Andor. But yeah, let's get into it.
Tell now that it's fresh in your brain though, let's get the cliff notes. Pros, cons, good and bad. What do you got?
Pros, I love this period of the Empire. I personally eat this up. I mean, I've talked about Solo before. I love Solo. I love this period in between, episode three and the rebellion starting. And it's just, it was so well done of how they crafted a story around a character that was kind of nameless in a lot of ways. Like he was good in Rogue One, but he wasn't did we really need an Andor show? Many people probably would have said no.
Yeah, it does feel like based off the movie, you're like, why is this guy getting a TV show?
But oh my gosh, did it do more for my understanding of the rebellion than a lot of shows and a lot of Star Wars
Mhm.
content? Just because, I mean, the last episode, the big set piece, and that's what I'm obsessed with right now. And it kind of brought me back to the Mandalorian and their giant end set piece. It's just these big battles in these towns of, in far reaches of the galaxy. And this one, I mean, the tension buildup in the season finale was just worth the entire show. All this time you have Andor, who's not really a rebellion, becomes like he's not in it for the rebellion. He just
Yeah,
does it for money at this point, and then gets kind of screwed over by the stupidness of the Empire, gets thrown in jail, and then does the epic prison break, which I'll talk about in a minute. But gets to this end point, and he is the like is it the crux? Is that the proper term for it? Like he is the center of this little inkling of rebellion
oh yeah.
in Ferrex.
Hmm.
Yeah, it's more so his mother, but like everyone ends up in that one point because of Andor. And it's
Hmm.
the Empire's there. The rebels are there. Everyone's just trying to kill him, but it's
Hmm.
like all these moving parts, and it was so well done. And
Yeah,
the end speech of, I mean, there are two speeches in it that really hit was the like intercom transmission about freedom and then Marva's epic I'm
yeah,
dead, you gotta fight, let's run it. And
yeah,
it's just epic. That was such a great season finale for a great season of a show that
yeah,
I really really enjoyed it.
yeah,
And the cons I'd say is we need a season 2, there's no season 2 yet.
yeah. Well, D23 is coming soon. Well, maybe we'll get some news.
That's something I'm hoping for. And I will say one of my cons is the politics seemed a little. I like the political side of things. Those scenes just kind of dragged for me a little bit.
Which ones in particular are you talking about?
Like with I forget her name.
Mon
She
Mothma?
Mon Mothma.
Mm-hmm.
Some of her scenes, I was just like, come
You're
on,
kind of low
get
on.
get through this. We know what you're trying to say, and the writing's well done. It's just and all the characters very much speak to who they are. It's
Mm-hmm.
just I don't know. It felt like we can move things along a little bit faster. And maybe that's just because I was more excited about other parts of the story.
Yeah.
Like
Especially in that like prison sequence where you're like, we're in the prison sequence, and then all of a sudden you cut away to Mon Mothma. I get it. I get it. I did the same thing. Like I've watched that prison arc like 5 times now at least, and you know, you just skip that chunk and skip that chunk and skip that chunk,
let's
which
talk
is
about that prison arc there.
all right.
Let's get
You,
into that. What are your
uh,
initial thoughts about it? Because you're saying you've watched it 5 times. Why have you watched that in particular 5 times?
I think I think it's because it's when you see Star Wars that it's like most like base level talking about human existence and like talking like it really addresses like what an empire, what like supervision, what like authoritarianism, like what all of these things like can happen, you know, from him getting thrown in jail for like pretty much on accident. Like for some, like it's like he doesn't like it's not even the guy. They throw him in jail and they don't even realize that it's like they're ch hunting this guy already. Like they just throw him in jail. Like it's
It's
crazy.
insane. You
Like
would
from
think
yeah,
like you're getting to this episode of the show and you're like, okay, if he's going to get
he's done
caught for
for.
something, he's going to get
Yeah,
caught. No, it's just because he's looking suspicious. Not because he
yeah,
is suspicious, not because he was a part
hmm
of something. He just looks it. And the power trip, the
yeah.
stormtrooper is
hmm
just, yeah, I'm going to arrest this guy because I can.
And then from getting in there and just seeing how like how quickly and efficiently and effectively the empire is at like suffocating human willpower and individualism and like literally, you know, they have what was it, 12 guards for each floor to control like hundreds of prisoners, and like for them to be able to do that in that effective crazy way and just like it really shows like how suppressive the empire is and how just effective that they are and how evil that they can be of like you know it really like it's allegorical to a lot of things, right? And I think that's what we all really respond to in it is like whoa, okay, Star Wars is addressing some like real, you know, humanism and like s stuff. It's just addressing like core fundamental things that happen in our brain and what happens and how powerful it is when one man is able to defy those like strict, rigid regimes and rules to be able for the sake of others in a lot of way. It's
Yeah,
just it's like a powerful moment in Star Wars, I think.
it really is, and it's expanding upon, the whole idea of the Empire and what we've seen. Because, like the original trilogy, it's like, okay, yeah, they're the bad guys.
Hmm.
They're the bad
Yeah.
guys. And we
Yeah.
kind of get more of like why are they the bad guys
Hmm.
throughout the different mediums of content
Hmm.
we've had. But this really shows they're evil
Yeah.
to the core.
Hmm.
And I gotta say, and have you? I didn't know there was going to be a post-credit scene. Did you know that there was a post-credit scene at the end of the
No.
last episode?
Oh, what was it? It's been a while for me. It's
So
fresh
you,
for you. What is it?
it's the building of the Death Star
Oh yeah.
and the piece
Hmm.
that
That
he
he
made in the factory was put on the laser. And
yeah.
that laser, and it's just, I mean, to quote the great George Lucas, it's like poetry. They rhyme. That's what killed. He created the thing that kills him in the end.
Yeah.
He was forced to create
Hmm.
something that worked in the mass destruction of him, like that ultimately killed him. And I was just like, wow, that like drives the stake in. That is so heartbreaking. And what a crazy reveal. Because then it brings it back to the whole, oh yeah, this is in the greater Star Wars galaxy. And just wow, it's like if you don't haven't watched Rogue One, you wouldn't like that wouldn't mean no significance, but it just kind of speaks it spoke volumes to me. And on the note of the prison break sequence, you really rally behind them, you know? And I know you're meant to,
Yeah.
and it's kind of that's I mean, of course that's what it's meant to do. But man, I've not felt that passionate about like getting people out of a place and like being so scared that they wouldn't, you know? Like I know Andor's gonna get out. He has to. But man, is it stressful. Is that stressful? And just oh my gosh, that whole sequence was
Yeah.
quite impressive.
It's yeah, it's pretty astounding what they get up to.
And then the heartbreaking, oh my gosh, the heartbreaking end to it
Hmm.
of I can't swim.
That Andy Serkis.
Oh my gosh, what a
What a
role.
guy. Yeah, he nailed it. He
And it's just
yeah.
another example of a fantastic speech given in
Yeah.
Andor. The writing on this show was some of the best writing in all of, I think, of all of television. I'm going to say it. I'm going to come out with my hot take here. It has some of the best writing in all of television. And I know it may get written off as, oh, it's a Star Wars show. Oh, it's a Disney show, this and that. But oh my gosh, if I had to do a monologue for an acting class, I could take several from that show.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, you could.
There's so many great moments of just these speeches that are just like, let's go. Let's freaking be rebels. Let's destroy the Empire and all of its evils. And oh my gosh, it just makes you want to rise up and, you know,
Yeah, do
destroy the
some
Empire.
stuff. Yeah, destroy the Empire. But it is yeah. I've always said this, Thomas. I don't know what book I've read it in or who I got it from, but if you want some class A actors in that old project of yours, write some juicy monologues. You get a juicy monologue, somebody will be there to act it. I'm telling you. And this show delivers on that.
It really did.
Yeah,
Because
it's
there were some high profile names in this show, which was so random. Because again, and I'll bring it back to the point of it's about Cassian Andor,
yeah.
which I just think it blows me away. This character that was killed in this first film was the supporting actor. He wasn't the main protagonist. He was a
Hmm.
supporting role.
Yeah, he was. Um, I mean, Fiona Shaw, Marva. I had a Greek classics professor in college when this came out who, hated genre, hated all of this stuff, doesn't watch television, only watches Shakespeare and, all of these things. And he came into class one day when we were talking about Greek classics and acting. And he comes in and he's like, I watched this really metaphorical show from the Star Wars universe, and I hate Star Wars. I think it's pretentious, but they had Fiona Shaw in it. So I decided to watch it because, it's Fiona Shaw. And I just was laughing because, you know, it's Star Wars and it gets the Star Wars haters to even watch the show and appreciate it. It's something that appeals to, it's a different section of Star Wars, which I think they've been struggling to find, but this was something that really worked. It was a high quality, dramatic thing that Star Wars hasn't been able to do. It got away from, the more genre superhero nature of it, and it became more of a grounded, analogy for, rebellion and politics and, human society. And I think a lot of people responded to it. I mean, I've had three interactions with different professors who hate Star Wars and hate genre and stuff like that. But all of a sudden, there they were talking about it, and they're like, "Oh my gosh, yeah, I really liked it, It was amazing. I loved Andor, and it was so great. And oh, it was written by Gilroy. That's why it was so amazing, obviously. And Fiona Shaw's in it. Like, it's amazing. It was something that I think it was one of those first things that like really showed that the potential of what Star Wars could be in this new like Lucasfilm era.
I agree. And like, let me just read off the cast real quick because
Hmm.
it still amazes me. You got Diego Luna as Cassian,
Hmm.
Adria Arjona as Bix, Faye Marseille as
Hmm.
Vel, Dennis go as Dedra, the Imperial lady, who was like one of those roles that I thought I was like, I'm not gonna like this character. And it's not like I liked her at the end, but I was just like, man, she if only the Empire listened to her more, you know?
Yeah.
And just back to the Empire being so caught up in hatred and darkness and, just being evil that their own individuality and their own hubris gets in the way of I want to arrest you because I can, not because you're a threat. And, maybe if I destroyed you, like I would save the empire, or oh no, we want to make an example out of these people. Don't keep them alive for questioning and maybe root out the rebellion. No, we want to make an example of it. Like just stuff like that. Oh, it's crazy. But then you
Mm.
got Stellan Skarsgård in a fantastic role. I was very
Yeah.
hesitant about him at first. I was like, how is, the kooky professor from Thor going to be playing in a Star Wars film? Um, and he
Come
killed
on.
it. He killed it. I
You're
know he's
you're
he's a
you're
phenomenal actor. I'm
yeah.
messing.
Come on. You're underrating the man. This is the
I
same guy who, was in Dune. He was Baron Harkonnen in
Yeah, he
Dune,
kind of
man.
killed it as Baron Harkonnen. No, he's a phenomenal actor. I don't know why I was so kind of hesitant about him, but his again his monologue with the Imperial officer he flipped in
Hmm.
that sick hallway shot. Oh my gosh. I
Yeah.
was like that was epic. That was epic. And then we got Andy
Hmm.
Serkis, Fiona Shaw, who we talked about. It's just like these guys
Yeah.
came into the show, elevated it to the max, and that's something the Acolyte didn't seem to do. I mean, it introduced some new actors here and there, and had some good characters. It just yeah, it never really had one of those moments or like and that's you're down the right path saying it was different than Star Wars and not really going the whole superhero genre type thing of it's a drama and I think man it worked so well and it was so refreshing
Yeah. It
with all that's going on in Star Wars, right?
yeah. It really it felt more, and I've heard this said on another podcast, but it really feels like an HBO show rather than like a Disney Plus show of like the same high quality, production design and cinematography and all of those things, but it's a lot more dramatic and its subject matter feels more adult in a way. It's grown up with a lot of the Star Wars audience, and yeah, that's I think that's what we both really love and respect about it is that it's not, talking down to its audience. It's not trying to be this fun, like franchisey, like, you know, big superheroes and capes kind of thing. It's a lot more grounded and dramatic, which I think when you look at all of these franchises and their success is that despite all of the superheroes and capes and stuff is like if it's successful, there's drama and character that you care about. And I think that's what Andor does really well.
Yeah, and I think it sets that tone, and that's what we talked about when you first showed me the first episode was it sets the tone immediately. Like, and when he accidentally kills the guy, then the other dude's pleading for his life, and he's like, "Oh, it was an accident. We can frame it as this," and he just, bam,
Well, he knows, like he's not stupid. And I think that's what we like about it, of like he's not stupid, He's not like he knows that like framing it as an accident, that's not what works. And I think that's what we both like. That's what people
yeah,
respond to of like, oh, he's not like a stupid character. Is like gonna play this game of like, does he trust some random guy? Is that random guy gonna sell him out? That random guy's gonna sell him out immediately because he's not
hmm
gonna admit that he was, that they were drunk and wombling around when they shouldn't have been. I think that's what we love about it. Like, and he's not a stupid guy. He doesn't trust easily in the Star Wars universe, which is like what we both, I think, what everyone responds
yeah,
to of like in the age of the Empire, you can't trust anyone.
and it's yeah, it really. goes back to the age of the Empire, and I think that's what I loved about it most
Yeah.
is that age of the Empire and how characters are responding to it. How Andor responds to it, how Mayville responds to it, how Mon Mothma responds to it. It's just everyone, no one seems happy. And the only people that are happy are the drunks politicians, the gambling addict politicians, the
Yeah.
people in power abusing that power. It's just it's wow, it's pretty powerful.
It
And
does. And it was the one thing that I liked about Ryan Johnson's film, where they go to the casino verse and they're there and it really shows how nothing has changed. You know, empires rise and fall, regimes change, but the people who are still in power and are still like enjoying life are those who are selling weapons to both sides and those who are playing both sides and don't really care. And I think that, it speaks to, what's happening in our world, what, makes sense in our human reality of like those in power stay in power and they don't really pick one side or the other. They're not for good or bad. They're for both, and that works for them.
yeah, it is wow. The more you talk about this show, the more you think about it, it really just keeps evolving.
The deeper you get.
The deeper you get. And
Yeah.
yeah, it's just it's one of the and I wish more Star Wars content was like this. And and not everything has to be like this. Not every Star Wars piece has to be similar vibe and of the same genre and stuff. Because I still love Mandalorian. I still love Clone Wars, this and that. But Clone Wars, I think,
Hmm.
is very similar in this too, as it had a lot more adult themes than we originally probably caught.
Yeah.
Right? And it talked a
Oh
lot
yeah.
about the greater galaxy and like, there was slavery, there was oppression, there were drugs being, all over the galaxy. And that was a kids show.
Yeah.
Which I find it hard to say that it's a kids show because I think it's just a show. I think it's a top
Hmm.
quality show. I think it's one of the greatest pieces of television we've ever gotten in all of TV. I mean, it's got to be
Yeah.
praised as such. It is one of those things that, and that not just because I'm a Star Wars fan or I'm kind of biased because I grew up with it, but just genuinely coming at it from a film perspective and from someone who has been studying the medium, it's phenomenal. And I think it is
Yeah.
the subject matter. It doesn't treat the audience like dummies. It doesn't just give us some kid-friendly BS. It really just tells it how it is in a Clone Wars animated style.
Which, yeah, it shows how much you can do with animation too. And I think that's a great thing that we've learned over the past, I don't know, 10 years, maybe, that society has come to accept of like animation as a medium that is not just for kids. It's like it's really whatever you want it to be, and it gives you a lot more opportunities than it does hinders you in terms of what you can do, which I think is really cool. Another medium that writers and creatives in Star Wars, likes to explore.
Yeah, and I still gotta watch Tales of the Empire. I'm not caught up on
Yeah.
that. Because I know that's Clone Wars style, but I didn't know. I was talking to
Yeah.
one of my friends about Tales of the Jedi the other day,
Hmm.
and how he liked the Count Dooku story arc, and how he thought that was very enlightening, and he wants to see more content like that. Do you think we will see more content in the animated style? And I know we talked about it a few times already. Um, But is there any hope, do you think, in that? And we're like, there's that job posting. Do you think we would get anything close to Clone Wars ever again? Maybe that's the question. I'm gonna go and pinpoint on that. Will we
Um,
see anything of that caliber?
Maybe not of that caliber. Like that is like Clone Wars, what was it, 7 seasons and like 10 years or 20, like 15 years now. Like it, it's it won't be rivaled in terms of like history and size and scope. But, you know, I think if Lucasfilm sits down and like actually thinks about what they want to do in that medium, then there's a chance. I don't have hope for it at the current moment, given, you know, Dave Filoni seems to have moved on to live action, which is like good and bad. I think he's a talented storyteller, so it's great to have him making a movie with Jon Favreau. Like they've proven that they're a great combo. I just I think that having all of the focus be in live action, it does feel like over the past couple of years, like animation has fallen by the wayside from the people at the top. It doesn't mean that they're not making great stuff like Tales of the Empire and stuff like that. I think it's phenomenal. I think, they have their kids shows too, which, seem to be pretty good. But um Rebels is over. You know, the Dave Filoni animation thing seems to be over, and it doesn't seem like there's anything that's prepping to take the void. Maybe D23 slash Star Wars Celebration will prove us wrong. We know that there's something in the mix there behind the scenes based off of a job posting, supposedly, is our hope. But I think long term, I don't know. I think that there needs to be a lot more planning around it, that we don't have the Marvel, we don't like love it or hate it, Kathleen Kennedy isn't Kevin Feige, isn't to Star Wars what Kevin Feige is to Marvel, She's a great producer. She's proven that in her history, but in terms of like Star Wars, passion, I don't know if she has it the same way that Kevin Feige, who is an assistant producer on X-Men and was giving comic books to Hugh Jackman. I don't know if it's the same. There's not that same lore around it. There's not that same connection with it, which is, it's sad, but it's also just reality. Like you can't expect, there's a reason why Kevin Feige is special to the Marvel universe and has kind of slowly but surely just become the king of Marvel throughout his time there. It's because, he's doing his thing with it and people respond to it. I mean, they essentially have given we were at Comic-Con and we were there, is that they've essentially pivoted from, their next four movies, which was supposed to be all about Kang, and they've successfully pivoted and gotten everyone excited about Robert Downey Jr. coming back and reprising a different role for the
Which
next
is
like yeah.
incredible how they can flip-flop like that. And it's kind of it goes to show the two different sides there because it's like remember I don't know, I think back to the backlash of Last Jedi, and it didn't seem like they learned from their mistakes. And then they
Yeah, I think
released the Skywalker saga. It's like you can kind of see yeah, is there the passion behind it that there
well,
needs
yeah,
to
the
be?
passion behind it and also just like the skill and organization of it, of like, they were dealt a pretty big blow with getting rid of Kang, and they kind of seemed stagnant for 2 years deciding if they would or wouldn't. And then they went, and then they went, you know they pivoted and they completely worked around it. And people are excited again for it, and it seems like there's hope and potential. And maybe, I think I'm calling it now, hashtag HoloNet Hot Take, of like 4 years 4 years from now we're gonna look back on what these Marvel franchise people did and be like, whoa, they really pivoted and did some amazing stuff. They made a few mistakes and were dealt a bad hand in a few scenarios, and they really, pulled it out and they did something amazing. I think that's what we're in for with Marvel, and I don't know if we're in for the same thing with Star Wars yet.
And it is it's fascinating, right? Because like I feel like there hasn't been this much hype around a Marvel IP since maybe Spider-Man. I mean, Deadpool is the exception, not the rule, right?
Well,
Because
Deadpool seems to be the first, project that's correcting the path, right?
yeah,
Like
correct,
they use Deadpool to correct the path, which is really cool.
which is pretty
Um,
ingenious, honestly. They
mhm.
they did a good job of that. And it's like with Star Wars, I don't know the last time we've really collectively as a fandom, because I feel like Marvel, it's collectively as a fandom, everyone is excited. There is
Yeah.
buzz. There's not a single person that's really, or that I've come across that really is like hesitant about it.
I think a lot of people are still the jury's out for RDJ, but I think yeah, that's like the one thing.
But
Everyone else
besides
is
that, everyone,
which is crazy considering that, we're veering into Marvel land, but Fantastic Four has made what, three flops? And yet everyone is excited for this version of Fantastic Four. Like this one is gonna change it.
mhm.
Statistically speaking, there's not a high chance that this is a great movie, but you know, based off of previous examples, but this everyone seems to believe that this is the one, and I'm victim to it. But when you look at the numbers, when you look at what's happening, when you look at that they're entering, I don't know what their details are production. Everyone thinks that they're entering production like a week ago, but that's not the case, because there's set photos and stills that are coming out. So, this might just be production part two.
Mhm.
But still, they're still entering production with one of the four of their main characters. One of them is a completely CGI character, and the movie comes out next year. Are they going to be able to turn around? Who knows? But still more than what Star Wars is doing.
And that's the thing. And I think it goes back to we need a Star Wars film. We need,
Yeah,
I think we need another big budget. Put it in
blockbuster.
theaters.
But
Give it to me summer, give it to me May, give it to me to December. I want to go to the movies with my family and see the opening crawl back up on the screen, or at least something similar to it.
But yeah, I just like historically it seems like they're scared of like this big budget box office movie, considering that their trilogy flopped or like creatively flopped. I mean, I know they made $1 billion, but it's like in terms of like reviews and critically acclaimed and like by the fans, people watched it, but they didn't like it. So I think they're still afraid of it, but
And my
it gives,
issue with that though, you spend $180 million on a TV show,
yeah,
on a damn TV show. You could have been putting that $180 million into a movie that would A, your return would be
yeah, higher.
way higher, astronomically higher. You probably lost money on the Acolyte. And if
Well, yeah.
people hate it, it's not going to be hated on for, 10 weeks in a row.
I think that's what's interesting about this whole streaming game, though, right? It's like if you really want to get into it, of like there's a reason why movies still exist, of like they still make money. Putting a movie in a theater still makes money. Going direct to streaming is your guaranteed subscriber numbers, which doesn't equate to selling tickets. There's two different ways of going around it. And I think you're right in the analysis that if you want to, bring in some cash, putting things in theaters and then going to streaming is a clear-cut way of doing that. But
Mhm.
it's, you have to balance it and find this weird thing that nobody seems to have really found yet. And yeah, I don't see like Star Wars like betting big on a huge franchise movie. Like I don't like they're not talking about, we're making something that no one's ever made before that we've never made before. Like Marvel does of like this is something completely different that you don't expect. That seems to come around with every Marvel movie. It seems to be coming around with DC movies. It seems to be coming around with, you know, the next um the next like Skywalker saga movie is supposed to come out the same day as Dune Part 3. I don't think a lot of people right now are thinking, I'm going to pick that movie over Dune Part 3, which is
Yeah.
crazy to say, but I think that's just where we're at right now.
And I mean, that's the state of it. That's the state of Star Wars. It's
It's not
tough.
blockbuster. It's
It
just
is
not
not
blockbuster.
blockbuster, which is a shame because where did it all start?
Yeah, well,
Back to the
yeah.
beginning of this episode I talked about. It was the summer blockbuster.
Yeah.
It was
And
the
yeah,
movie of the century. We had people lining up around corners, streets and streets to watch this film. And I think we need to get back into the blockbuster.
yeah, yeah. We'll see.
We'll
We'll see
see.
is the answer. No pitch
That's,
today, but
yeah, no pitch today. One last thing I wanted to show everyone. This is cool.
mm-hmm.
Going back to the Kenner conversation, I'm going to mute myself real quick just because it's loud.
Loud. Dun dun dun.
This is the
Whoa.
one of the original 1977, 78 Kenner Darth Vader action figures that I have in my collection. No cape or
Wow.
lightsaber, but I got the figure.
You're gonna get jumped. How much is it worth? How much? What's the money? What's the price
I
tag?
I have zero clue. I have
Nah.
zero clue. I got it as a gift from my grandparents. They love thrift shopping and somehow found it. Probably for much cheaper than it should have gone.
Love a deal.
Because
We
I
love
got
a good
this,
deal.
and then I got the updated one in there, which I think is fun.
Nice.
So
That's awesome.
yeah, I
Very cool.
love my action figures, man.
Yeah, fair enough. Well,
Anyways, we'll see you guys next week on the next. What was I saying there?
and go.
We'll see you guys next week on the next episode of HoloNet Hot Takes. Thanks so much.